Hi, I'm Kristen King from the Investing Channel, and you're watching Smart Money, the show that gives you the inside edge on the bets that the movers and shakers on Wall Street are placing. This week, we're looking at a space that has been under pressure for much of last year, that of ride-hailing and ride-sharing apps. Under lockdown, many of us stayed home more and traveled less. We weren't eating out so much, if at all, and social events and other gatherings were largely off the list too. So there was much less reason to use the well-known ride-hailing apps. The sector in the USA is dominated by two main players, Uber and Lyft, and it's Lyft that we're looking at this week. Lyft, which is headquartered in San Francisco, has a market cap of more than $21 billion and was founded back in 2012 by programmers Logan Green and John Zimmer. It formally became known as Lyft in 2013. Lyft was originally developed using Facebook's open-source API and initially connected ride-sharing students across California's university campuses. Since those early days, Lyft has gone to operate in 644 towns and cities across the U.S. and a further 12 in Canada, and now has an approximate 30% share of the U.S. ride-hailing market. Lyft reported Q4 2020 earnings in early February, and the effect of the pandemic was clear to see. Revenues came in at $569.9 million, down from more than $1 billion in the same period during 2019, a decrease of some 44%. Overall, the business lost $458.2 million in the fourth quarter of 2020, and despite its greatly reduced turnover, that loss was far larger than the Q4 2019's loss of $356 million. The pandemic and the restrictions on travel and socializing that it brought about are completely out of Lyft's control, of course. Early signs of increased user activity seen in Q3 2020 initially continued into Q4. However, a second wave of new COVID cases stopped them in their tracks. Lyft hasn't sat idly by, however, and the company has been streamlining its operations to reduce costs. It found and eliminated $360 million of fixed costs in 2020, exceeding its internal cost-cutting targets by an impressive 20%. However, despite those cost savings, Lyft's net loss margin was 80.4% versus 35% in Q4 2019, though the Q4 2020 loss does include two large one-off items. Data from app tracking service Apptopia suggests that the number of drivers logging into the Lyft and Uber apps is down by 40% during Q1 2021 when compared to the same period in 2020. Customer spending on ride-hailing apps has seen an even larger percentage drop over the last 12 months, and the limited numbers of drivers on the road mean that many journeys cannot be organized quickly or, in some cases, at all, depriving the apps and their users of one of their major selling points: convenience. However, Lyft and its rival Uber are anticipating a sharp pickup in business as the economy reopens and are now offering incentives to entice drivers back out to work. For example, Lyft has been offering bonuses of up to $800 per month to returning former drivers and are increasing earnings on passenger journeys when the pickup takes longer than 9 minutes. Attracting drivers back into ride-hailing may not prove to be an easy feat, particularly if those drivers have alternative jobs within the gig economy, perhaps delivering parcels or takeaway food. So even if ride-hailing demand does pick up among consumers, it's not clear that Lyft or Uber will be able to meet it. That degree of uncertainty may help to explain insider selling at Lyft in the last couple of weeks, selling by someone who many would consider to be an expert technology investor. That investor is David Lawley, who spent 13 years at Google founding its VC business, Capital G, during that time. Before that, he was head of mergers and acquisitions for Google, a position he held for 5 years. David Lawley is well known on Wall Street and is exactly the kind of person that the pros pay attention to. Mr. Lawley sold shares in Lyft last week, but those sales were just part of his wider and ongoing disposal of the stock. In fact, since March 5th, he has sold more than 5 million Lyft shares at an average price of $66.11, raising a little over $344.84 million in the process. Mr. Lawley came onto the Lyft Inc. board in the autumn of 2017 when Capital G led a $1 billion funding round for the company, so he knows the business very well. If someone of this stature has almost halved their shareholding in Lyft, even as the economy is about to reopen, then that should give other investors serious pause for thought. According to Trackstar IQ, our proprietary search tracking tool, institutional interest in the firm has collapsed at a time where the S&P is hitting all-time highs. That's all we have time for today, but as usual, make sure you do your due diligence before making any investment decisions. To find out more about our Trackstar IQ data, sign up to our free newsletter at investingchannel.com/Trackstar.